Alright, you guys, welcome back to my coverage of the UEFA Champions League. It's the semi-finals and PSG have just taken a 1-0 lead over Arsenal in the first leg, and we need to talk about it. But if you haven't seen my face before and you don't know me, or maybe you've been watching my videos before and you're yet to subscribe, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Just Max, and on this channel I talk about football from the La Liga to the Prem and definitely the UCL. And today we're talking about the UEFA Champions League, where Arsenal have just taken a 1-0 beating from PSG, and there are a lot of talking points that we must consider. But first, let's look at the starting lineup that Mikel Arteta put out for this game. We started with David Raya in goal, typical. Timber in left back, William Saliba in the center, pairing with Kiwior. I hope I'm saying that properly. I don't think I am. And then Marcel Lewis Kelly rounded out the Arsenal's backline. We had Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice, who was the hero for Arsenal against Real Madrid, and Mikel Merino come out in the middle of the park. And then for the front three, we had Bukayo Saka, Trossard and Gabriel Martinelli, essentially rounding out a 4-3-3 formation for Arsenal. Now for PSG and for my guy Luis Enrique, he opted to put out a similar lineup from what we've seen before. I mean, we had Gigi Donnarumma in goal, Mendes, Pacho, Marquinhos and Hakimi were in the back for PSG, Ruiz, Vitinha, Neves. We're in the middle, similar formation to Arsenal, and of course Kvaratskhelia, Dembele and Desiree Doué. We are the front three for PSG in this match. And honestly, from the get-go, I was not sure who was going to come out on top, because I felt like both teams were having the same kind of profile. They like to kind of play the same kind of way. Ultimately, I felt like it was going to be the team who had the goal to take their chances and take it well. Now, when we got into the match, it would prove to be PSG who did that. Arsenal started out very slow, whereas PSG started out lights out. Within the first 20 minutes, they were mesmerizing Arsenal every which way, to the point that it reminded me of the first half of the Copa del Rey finals between Barcelona and Real Madrid. What PSG was doing to Arsenal in that first half was exactly what Barcelona did to Real Madrid in that first half. Now, of course, the goal is going to come within the first 5 minutes through Ousmane Dembélé. And as a Barcelona fan myself, I cannot lie to you, I have been absolutely disgusted watching Ousmane Dembélé shine for PSG this season. Because when I saw that strike and how assured he was, and how there was no doubt, and how he was so very well settled, I was wondering where this Ousmane Dembélé was for Barcelona. Like, my guy was always missing sitters, he missed chances, and of course he was always injured as well. But like at PSG, he's had one of the healthiest seasons of his career, and he looks so much more confident playing in that false nine position. And I was just I'm happy for him. He's having almost a Ballon d'Or season. I mean, if not that is the PSG, or is the League On, I should say rather, he should be up there for a Ballon d'Or shout. So don't get me wrong, it's just that as a Barcelona fan, for how much we kept on waiting for him to arrive in La Liga, every time that I see him have one of these moments of brilliance for PSG, I'm just disgusted. Anywho, all of that to say that was a very brilliant goal from him on the fourth minute. It was a brilliant strike. Arsenal's defending was so chaotic. Nobody knew to pick up one of the most deadly informed strikers in Europe at the moment. Nobody. And it was so chaotic, and it was so well deserved. It was a beautiful goal, and outside of the box kind of goal, and it was what a wonderful strike. And honestly, there was nothing David Raya could do about it. He stretched, but you know, there was nothing he could do about it. Most of the first half, as I mentioned earlier, would be about PSG just mesmerizing Arsenal, and I think it took only to the 24th minute before Arsenal really came into their own, and then they started to turn things around. And I'm going to be honest with you and say that I felt like Arsenal deserved to be at least level going into the half, because they realized suddenly that they were playing a UEFA Champions League semi-finals, and it's almost like they were having one leg out of the door if they did not come to play. And they really woke up. They had one of the better performances that late on in that first half. They continued to press PSG, and if not for the brilliance of Gigi Donnarumma in goal, they would have scored. And much like his game performance against, I was going to say his performance against Liverpool, but then I was thinking about the wrong goalkeeper, because it was Alisson. So much like that performance from Alisson against PSG, I think Donnarumma had one of those performances for PSG today, because that first half, towards the end of that first half, it was all about Arsenal. It was all about them trying to break the deadlock, and Gigi Donnarumma had to come up with more big saves to keep the lead on. And I felt like if Arsenal were going to take at least a draw from this game, they needed to come out firing on all cylinders. There was no room for that cold start that they had when they started this game, because like that's one of the things that killed them, in my opinion, is that they started the match very slowly, whereas PSG came out of the gate firing. So I felt like in the second half they really need to come out firing on all cylinders, and they did just that, to the point that Mikel Merino had the ball in the back of the net, again orchestrated by Declan Rice, but unfortunately the offside trap was just that bit accurate. Like, he was just slightly accurate. I was so gutted for him. I was so gutted for Declan Rice as well, because I was like, how can you catch lightning in a bottle 3 times? Because he had that wonderful strike, or free kick, a set piece essentially, and then it was a very wonderful delivery for Mikel Merino to just give a header, and it was in the back of the net, except he was just slightly offside, and that goal did not count. But that would not deter us now. In my opinion, they had a very good game. If you ask me now, who did I think should have won this game? I think that, in all honesty, this game should have been at the very least a draw. I was saying on my TikTok just now, like, I didn't think that Arsenal should lose the game, but at the same time I didn't think PSG should lose the game. I actually thought PSG deserved to win, because there was moments in that second half where they should have scored like more than 2 goals, or they should have scored an additional 2 or 3. I think at least Bradley Barcola had 1 or 2 wonderful sitters. That was a total let-off for Arsenal, that if they had just maintained a bit of composure, they could have taken away a 3-0 lead. And honestly, from the perspective of an Arsenal fan, I'm not one, but like, if I were one watching that game, I could understand how fearful you might have been in that moment, because you're sitting down looking at how maybe David Raya was already beat. There was that one occasion where the ball was just slightly wide. I think that happened on 2 occasions actually. And honestly, Bradley Barcola should have done better. I felt like, you know, the more Arsenal kept on chasing the game, the more it left spaces in the back for PSG to exploit, and pockets of space within that second half or towards the end of it, I felt like PSG could have scored. It was a very interesting game. As a neutral myself, I enjoyed it. And to the point that I don't know who deserved to win. But I am, if you were a Gunner and you're looking at this match from an Arsenal perspective, I think you would be okay with the fact knowing that you're only down by 1. Anything can still happen. The only problem here is that you lost at home. Now, PSG don't tend to lose at home very often. Of course, you're going back to Paris, and yeah, it's a hope. At least it's just 1-0, but it's still, in my opinion, it's a very difficult task to go to Paris to secure a winner. And not just that, you have to make sure that you outscore PSG by more than 1, because you already have the 1-goal deficit here. Now, PSG, in my opinion, are one of the most exciting young talents, bunch of players. They play for each other, they play as a unit. When I was watching this game, actually, I was thinking, if I were the Sheikh, who knew that it would only take Mbappe moving on to Real Madrid for PSG to become a proper football club? Because I was watching the way they were playing as a team. They're very exciting. The only team that's outshining them right now, in my opinion, is my Barcelona, because just as much as PSG is a wonderful football club, the same thing can be said of Barcelona, except they're doing it on a much more bigger scale, you know, in the Spanish league. No offense at all, you know, but who knew it only took like Mbappe leaving PSG for them to turn into this, you know, well-oiled machine. I have to say it, Luis Enrique has done a fantastic job. He's really done a very good job in not only preparing this team or ensuring that they win the League On title, but also preparing them to play these kind of big games. So far they have one leg in the finals. I think, in my opinion, the best they've done, and they look really good for it. They really look good for it. They look like they're ready to step up to that mantle. As a Barcelona fan, I'm not sure that I want to play PSG in the final if we get there, because the way Luis Enrique has these guys playing together, playing for each other, working together as a unit, they are a scary team, and which is why I am quite worried for Arsenal going into the second leg next week. But anywho, that has been my take on this football match. It was an interesting one, a very exciting one, a very fast one. Alright, you guys, it's day 2 of the UEFA Champions League semi-finals. I've literally just come back home. I did not have the time to change out of my shirt to put on my Barca jersey because I was this excited to come here and talk about this game between Barcelona and Inter Milan, because what a game we've just seen. We have so many talking points that we need to get through. Sit back and let's get into it, because the lineup that Hansi Flick started with for this game included Szczesny in goal, Koundé in right back, Pau Kubasi in the middle, partnering this time with Inigo Martinez. We had Gerard Martin, who was still covering for the injured Alejandro Balde. Frenkie de Jong and Pedri from that double pivot for Barcelona in the middle. Lamine Yamal, who gave that explosive press conference before the match, came in with Dani Olmo and Rafinha, with Ferran Torres leading the line for Barcelona. But the surprises for us was what Inter Milan and Inzaghi put out, because we did know that Thuram was a bit injured. He's been their most impactful player, but let's look at what they did come up with. We had Jan Sommer in goal, a very world-class goalkeeper himself. Bastoni they came out with a back three. Actually, I'm just looking at it now. Bastoni, Akhrabi, and Bisek were in defense for Inter Milan. We had Di Marco, Mkhitaryan, Çalhanoğlu, Barella, and Dumfries, who had a magnificent game in the middle of the park for Inter Milan. And of course, we had Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram leading the line for Inter Milan. And within 1 minute, un minute of the game, Barcelona were conceding a goal to Marcus Thuram. And I have to mention at this point of my review that Inter Milan had not scored for 3 successive matches, and they choose now to score. I was so stressed, because what are you telling me right now? That Inter Milan, within the first move from the first kickoff, were able to break Barcelona's high line, walk the ball to Marcus Thuram, who was able to score a goal against Szczesny through a back kick, and that would be the beginning of some of the things that we are about to see in this match, because in my opinion, Inter Milan were able to break that Barcelona's high line a bit too frequently and a bit too easily, and I'm sure that this is something that Hansi Flick and the Barcelona boys will need to address when they go into the film room tomorrow to watch what happened in this game. However, I must give credit to Barcelona for the way that they responded in this game. Yes, they went down within 1 minute of the game. Yes, it was a surprise. Yes, we are at home. Yes, this was not on the cards, but they picked themselves up and they attacked Inter Milan like no man's business. Now, this is something that I have been saying all season long. The mentality of Barcelona, it reminds me of that mentality of the Bayern Munich team that beat Barcelona 8-2 when Hansi Flick was their coach. They have that never say die attitude. But I must admit, Jan Sommer was putting in some magnificent saves. There were moments where you felt like Barcelona were about to get ahead, get a scoring opportunity. He was having a goalkeeping exhibition. And just before I was getting settled into the rhythm and I was feeling like Barcelona were on the brink of something, so some sort of a comeback, guess who makes it 2-0? Yeah, Dumfries. And by the way, What a game for him. I think he's also just returning back from injuring himself. Him and Marcos Thuram positively impacted the entire Inter Milan setup. They kept on breaking that Barcelona line. That second goal for Dumfries, I can't hate in it, because yes, the commentator was talking about, oh, maybe Pedri should have sacrificed himself. Listen, that shit was hit with power. It was hit with haste. It was hit with conviction. And honestly, I don't blame Pedri for ducking away from sight, because that ball was whipping very quickly. But at that point, as a Barcelona fan myself, I was feeling a little bit concerned. The reason I was feeling concerned is because all week long, especially you'd recall that Barcelona had a 120 minutes high-octane game against Real Madrid on Saturday, where they won the Copa del Rey. Yes, we're happy for that win, but we knew that the team was going to come into this match a little bit tired, a little bit leggy, and this is not me giving excuses for them, but at the 20th minute, I was legitimately wondering if we have gone one step too far, in the sense that we're 2-0 down, the team they look good. But this is Inter Milan, and I expected Inter Milan at this point to enter a low block and preserve their lead, because you don't want to be down 1-0 to Inter Milan, talk less of 2-0, because they're a team that know how to defend and defend good. But one thing is for certain and two things for sure this season: whenever Barcelona look dead and out, what do? We activate Asian Lamine Yamal, because what a response. Just 3 minutes after Barcelona were down, he comes up with the most magnificent solo goal, a moment of sheer brilliance. This was individual brilliance if I ever saw one. He takes the ball, and again, I feel like he should patent this move. It's something that he's done so much. He did it against France. He's done it for the Spain national team. He's done it a couple of times in Barcelona uniform. You can see it coming, but honestly, you don't know how to stop it, because he takes the ball on the left side, a little 1-2 between him and Jules Koundé, takes the ball onto his preferred left, shimmies into his preferred position, just at the edge or just a little bit into the box, whips a very well worked diagonal balls that calls into the post, and it's 2-1. And immediately you could see that Barcelona, and myself by the way, had a lifeline. It was starting to give me reminiscent of the games between Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, because yes, Inter Milan is Atletico Madrid Pro Max. Everything that Atletico Madrid do well, Inter Milan do it well and better. So in that sense, it started to remind me of that Inter Milan versus Barcelona games, the one we had, the 2 legs of the Copa del Rey semi-finals. Barcelona were back, the stadium was rocking. I was starting to believe, and honestly, I don't know why Inter Milan did not enter a low block. They certainly had a 5-line defense in midfield that could have easily, got the job done if they had chosen to play that way. They did not, and that opened a second opportunity for Barcelona to put, not long after that, by the way, to level the score before halftime and put it level through a very well-worked team goal. Now, here's the thing. That Lamine Yamal goal for Barcelona to bring it 2-1, it was an individual move. This 2-2 move by Barcelona, it was Barcelona at its finest. It was passing football at its finest. It was a team effort at its finest, from midfield all the way to Rafinha, who cushions a perfect header for Ferran Torres, who is never going to miss from there. Yes, Jan Sommer have been putting in some spectacular performances for Inter Milan up until that point, but there was no missing this shot from Ferran Torres. It was literally in front of goal. So I was very excited. This is something that we've seen from Barcelona, a team that literally says, we don't know when to lose. We don't know when we're beat. I remember in a press conference earlier this week, or maybe leading up until the Copa del Rey finals, where Hansi Flick, or was it Hansi Flick, or maybe Juan Laporta was talking about how this team, they believe so much, they have so much faith in their ability to come back from every and anything, that it is up to Hansi Flick as a manager to literally calm them down and put their feet on the ground, because that is how much faith and how much belief that they have in themselves, that regardless of what it looks like, we are always going to come back. We are always going to be able to win. You might score 1 goal on us, you might score 2 goals on us, you might score 3 goals on us, but guess what? At the end of the day, when all things are said and done, the person who was going to be the winner is us. And that was that kind of mentality that I saw at that moment, and it made sense. I loved it. I was living for it. The only thing that I needed Barcelona right now was to hold that defensive line. Listen to me. Inter Milan, they did some work in that film room. They studied Barcelona like a T. They understood when to push up. They understood when to drop back. They understood how to break that high line today. So on multiple occasions, I was just wondering, can we hold? Because it's not our attack that is the problem. We will get goals. We just need to be able to be organized in a way that we don't concede. That is where the problem lies. And honestly, those 2 goals by Inter Milan, I thought Barcelona should have done better. The first one by Marcus Thuram, I didn't think it was, it had enough power behind it to beat Szczesny from there, but somehow we did okay, no problem. The one by Dumfries, I thought it was square enough at the goalkeeper that he should have done better. He did not do better, but ultimately as well, I thought someone should have picked up Dumfries for that second goal. They did not do that. So again, defensive issues is where we are crumbling this season, especially as we enter the business end of the season. We come into the second half. Inter Milan, somehow, I don't know what the Zagger said to them, but they came out with so much belief. They were rocking, they were pressing, they were pushing. For me, they were the better side at the start of that second half. They were looking for it, and consequently they kept on making those runs to try and break that Barcelona high line. And honestly, in this kind of game with the kind of players that we had on show, I was honestly wondering if there was an opportunity here for us to say, oh, should we maybe drop that high line a little bit down? Because at some point of the game we were seeing that high line, and it's going to be a subject of topic regardless of whether we want it or not. Yes, it has worked for Barcelona all season, but we are at the point where we are playing the creme de la creme of football. Are we at the point where we need to drop that high line? Because at some point we saw Kubasi and Inigo Martinez, they pushed up so high to almost the halfway line of the pitch, and so you had to ask. And Inter Milan, they were so adept. I have to give kudos to them and their technical team for whoever drew them ready for that in the film room session. They really did good. They studied that high line. They were running in behind. There were moments too when they could have easily played an easier pass that could have split the defense wide open. I would say they did not take their moments. They did not take. Dumfries could have had a hat-trick. He did not do that. Lamine Yamal could have also had a hat-trick. He did not get it. He hit the post twice, in quick succession. But this was a really, really well entertaining match. Leading into that second half, and especially after watching that first half performance, one of the things that I kept on realizing was how much underrated Alejandro Balde is for Barcelona. Because don't get me wrong, the last few weeks that Alejandro Balde has been out of commission for Barcelona, we've started to see his value, and in the sense that Alejandro Balde is just so stealthily on that left hand side for Barcelona. Not only is he good in defense, he's able to orchestrate some sort of combination plays between him and Rafinha to be able to put in crosses to the box, to be able to contribute meaningfully to Barcelona's attack. This is something that we've grossly missed since Alejandro Balde has been injured. Don't get me wrong, Gerard Martin is a good defender, but he is a different type of player from Alejandro Balde. Gerard Martin, in my opinion, is a typical defender. He's always going to look for the pass back, not the pass forward. He's always going to want to protect the ball. But Alejandro Balde has that ability to advance the ball and to put in meaningful crosses. So one of the things that I noticed for me is that Barcelona were not getting any kind of production in that left-hand side, which allowed Inter Milan to be able to understand that if anything meaningful of note was going to come from Barcelona, it was either going to be in midfield or on the right. So it allowed them to be able to choke out those spaces where Barcelona's attack were coming from, while allowing Gerard Martin all the space that he won, because he's not doing anything with it. So I am quite excited that we are going to have Alejandro Balde back for the second leg of this match. Now, let me tell you something. One of the things that also surprised me is how tall these Inter Milan people are. They are so tall. I felt like, oh my God, They knew it too. They knew that they were so tall. They had the height advantage over Barcelona. They knew that if they were going to be on a counter, a good cross, and they were in, if there was going to be a set piece opportunity, a good header, like it was not even, they were going to be able to outjump Barcelona at every given opportunity. And I want to say that the third goal for Inter Milan came from a set piece opportunity. And honestly, I couldn't be mad at it. I wanted to be really, really mad at it. Dumfries, he gets a very, very good touch, good header. I wanted to be mad at it. I really did. But like I said, it just felt to me like, again, remember how I say Inter Milan is Atletico Madrid Pro Max? Like, I just felt like I was looking at Alexander Sørloth in Marcus Thuram and Dumfries, and of course everybody on Inter Milan. They're so tall. They just tower over the Barcelona players, and I felt like, oh my goodness, what are we witnessing right now? And honestly, when Barcelona went down for a second time, I felt like, could these things be? How could these things be? How could we? Where was the goals going to come from? How we would be able to respond? And this is again that mentality to be able to come back. Again, I must remind people that for whatever criticism you have of Barcelona today, they did play 120 minutes of high-octane football just a few hours ago, like literally just a few hours ago. And they won that match. So I feel like we really should be appreciating what we're seeing here, because not up to 2 minutes after Barcelona went down, I don't care what UEFA says, this is a Rafinha goal. In my opinion, it was a golazo. Now Barcelona gets an opportunity to get a set piece done. We're not very tall. They know where the Inter Milan play. Like, you're not going to put a cross to what are you contesting? These people are like a foot and a half taller than you. Like, no, we're not doing that. We don't have Robert Lewandowski in the box to, challenge for this thing. So no. So what Barcelona did is they did go short. They did walk the ball out all the way to Rafinha, who was standing at the edge of the box. And when I tell you this man put his laces through that shot, I said, Lord, I said, wow. Because even I could not believe it. The pace, the power, the precision. I don't care what UEFA says. Yes, it did hit the bar. The inside of the bar comes, the keeper jumps and, tips it. But it comes off the back of the keeper and enters the post. I don't care. What did you want the keeper to do in that instant? Like, there was really nothing he could have done in that moment. He did what he was meant to do. That's one period. Like that, for me, that was the Rafinha goal, and it was 3-3 Barcelona. Of course, Inter Milan will still have the ball in the back of the net. It was ruled as offside. People are calling it, is it a controversial moment where Inter Milan it's offside. Barcelona have had goals taken away from them this season for offside. This season, we're going down to the smallest of margins. Remember Robert Lewandowski's shoe? Yeah, thank you. Rested. So now Barcelona end the match with Inter Milan 3-3. It was very entertaining. As a Barcelona fan, it was very stressful to watch. But I am so glad that we were able to come out of this match with some kind of result. We did not lose it. So yeah, I want everybody to remember this. We did not lose this match. So now we're going to go to Milan with nothing to protect but everything to play for. And that's okay. That is absolutely okay. But let me know what you thought about this game, the Arsenal one, and of course the Barcelona game. Let me know what you think about the matches that we saw. Who do you think will end up going through to the finals? Things are certainly heating up. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. But until next time, bye guys.